can curse and taste pigs!
There are no curses, son!
Really? Really? You think you're one to say that? God, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun. Okay, this is gonna be an interesting one because this character has divided the fandom just about more than any character I've ever seen. I'm talking about Professor Membrane from Invader Zim. Now, he's very interesting to me, mostly because of his hypocrisy. He calls his son insane, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a little insane, but just look at the way he acts. He was a grown man when he lost his arms, and we can prove that. But I want to start out with why his character development throws some people off. I think that's because in some ways it's more subtle. And also because some parts, especially in the comics, contradicts itself within the comics. And not to mention, we don't really know what he's working on in his real science most of the time. So that makes him very secretive, and we don't always know what his true intentions are. And it doesn't help that a lot of people call the ending of Enter the Florpus a 180 on his development when it's really not. His development was never about whether or not he believed Dib. It was about having his back and the fact that he loves his children no matter what. And really, more than him developing that attitude, I think the movie was more about allowing this character the chance to express that, to express these traits that were suppressed in the original seasons. And honestly, he gets called a neglectful parent, and I don't disagree, but at the same time, I'm gonna say that he is a lot more present in the show than a lot of people let on. This idea that he only spends one night a year with his kids, I think, was an exaggeration and a joke that maybe went a little too far in some places. I definitely think he spends more time with his kids than that, at least after Enter the Florpus. And even if he isn't necessarily with his kids, he's at home or he's close to them in his lab, like to where he is available. And we see that multiple times. In an unused audio recording, which I will link the animatic made down below, uh, he duplicated himself multiple times so that he can spend more time with his kids and even tell them stories. I'm sorry, which I found very, really sweet and hilarious. And he also sounded a lot more like Squidward in that one to me. I don't know what it was. And also, given the amount of times he's taken, like, sometimes a while to recognize his own son, makes me realize if that's less about him being neglectful and more about having facial recognition issues, which is actually pretty common, especially with people with Asperger's, which he does. He, Dib, and Zim show a lot of traits of maybe some kind of ADHD or Asperger's syndrome or somewhere on the autism spectrum. Of course, I don't want to be diagnosing every character in every show with Asperger's or ADHD. And a lot of people have already discussed this, at least when it comes to Zim or Dib. So that's not what this theory is about. And it's kind of become almost a trope in the theory community at this point, I feel like. So even though I understand it, that's not what this theory is about. Um, and when it comes to Dib and Gaz being his children and what happened to their mom, well, I don't think they had a mom. I do still think that Dib and Gaz were some type of clone or a byproduct of his experiments. Um, Even if that is an idea that was not able to be fully executed. Because, and I do not remember the episode, but Dib mentions that his obsession with aliens and that the paranormal began when he was basically born, and he remembers. Kid's got a freaking good memory. Like, he remembers being born in a tube with what he thought were aliens around him. But I think it's more likely that he was born in a tube like the babies in Brave New World, which he was cloned through Membrane's DNA. And I think that Gaz was created, and I've seen a lot of people speculate on this, but I think he created Gaz purely in an attempt to see if he could create a human female. And I don't know how he would have done that. Maybe he had a wife or a girlfriend. I don't see that with him. I don't think he's the kind of person who could hold that kind of relationship. But it could have been a volunteer's DNA. It could, or I don't know. I think I'm speculating a little too deep on the 2000s kids show, but that's that. I think he created Gaz just because. And what I mean when I talk about we don't know what he's doing or his intentions and his science, because in the show, he is almost always either experimenting on food or on animals, which the animal part especially is weird. It's animal cruelty, and it's very strange when you consider in the movie he was uh, establishing or had established world peace through creating a robot cat. I don't understand. And his hypocrisy is in how he lost his arms as an adult, which, even if we want to think the show is a separate canon, and that the fact he had normal arms in the show doesn't mean anything, there is a picture in their hallway showing Membrane with a fully exposed human arm. But in the movie, he has the robot arms. He says he was a kid when he lost his arms, but that doesn't make any sense. How else would he have been able to have that picture? And on top of that, he has not only a grudge, not only does he believe in Santa Claus, but he has a personal vendetta against him. So, given that we clearly see that Membrane is capable of believing very, very out there ideas,
but he doesn't believe in aliens.
Evidence.
Like, what the heck?
Exactly.
It's the most common thing.
Hey guys, my sister is here as a guest. And so given that we're able to see that he believes crazy things that are much crazier than believing in aliens, which I don't even believe believing in aliens is that crazy.
Like Santa Claus.
I think that his disbelief in aliens and most of the paranormal is out of fear, which is demonstrated by this scene in Enter the Florpus. So, I think that because Dib was able to overcome this fear, unlike he was, that is why Membrane is always proud of Dib. He tells him he wasn't just proud of him, he said he was always proud of him, which I think really says something, because that means he's been proud of him, even in the show, when he called him straight up insane. So that's really wholesome and valid. So I have just a question to bring up, because this is serving as a little bit of a springboard for a future theory I want to do. But what if Membrane Labs is actually connected to Swollen Eyeball? Because I don't believe Swollen Eyeball has good intentions at all. But what if Membrane is actually doing terrible things in the guise of real science, but doesn't know it? But honestly, that's for another day. This served as more as a very fun and interesting character analysis slash dissing slash loving for our science dad, Professor Membrane. He does his best, but he needs to do better. I still like his character. I think he's very fun to watch. Obviously, he gets better as the series goes along and as Jonan decides to stop being such an edgelord. This is all for today, and I don't know if you need to hear this or not, but I love you. I love you all. I hope you guys are getting through these crazy times without going crazy. And Sarah.